The regular meeting of the Zionsville Redevelopment Commission for Monday, February 27th, 2023 at 6:31. And we have a full quorum with all members present. Recognition of anyone who'd like to be noted. Anyone online? Anyone in the audience? Mr. Traylor? Okay, great, thank you. First order of business is swearing in of the RDC members. Brian, if you could walk us through that process, please.
Yes, I think at the last meeting, there was some confusion with respect to the process for swearing in new members. And so we all looked into what had occurred with various members. And so what we decided to do was, I guess, redo the process where you're all sworn in jointly at the same time through official written appointments. So not only are you being appointed officially in writing by the respective bodies, the town council and the mayor, but there's also the required oath that's embedded in said appointment. And once those are executed by each member and then notarized, because the notary is an official that can actually give the oath, you're done.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'll pass out in our packet, we already have the documents, and that's Kent's actually. This is yours. And then when you all get a chance, you could sign where noted, and then we will have it notarized.
Is there a notary in here?
Yes, Cindy's here.
Cindy for our treasurer is a notary. So
Okay. Great. Thank you. Next order of business is election of officers, president, vice president, and secretary. And this is we did it in January, but we had not been sworn in, taken an oath of office. So we thought it's prudent that we elect officers again for calendar year 2023. So, any nominations?
So for the office of president, so we'll do president.
For the president, office of president, any nomination? I'll nominate Jacqueline Spillane for president.
I will second.
Second, we have motion and second. Any discussion?
Any other nominations?
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Now, Brian, should I go through the rest, or does Jacqueline?
Jacqueline is now the president.
Okay.
She gets to entertain
Miss President?
nominations for vice president.
I'll second. Okay. Do I have a nomination for vice president? I would like.
will nominate Sanjay as vice president.
9 seconds. We take a vote. No, just wait for motion in a second.
Yeah, just a quick comment. So there's legislation that is being considered at the state legislature this session that we may end up in a different place later this year if something goes into effect. But one of the things that they're considering is that the president and the vice president of an RDC would not be from the same appointing authority. Just raising that for consideration this evening. It doesn't necessarily need to change any decisions, but be aware that in July, we may have to revisit this.
Good to know.
Great, thank you.
So you guys want to consider that now or no?
I mean, I say reconsider it when it becomes pertinent.
And you don't think it's pertinent now,
If it's not well now, I guess I would say not yet.
but you don't see the idea of what they're trying to accomplish?
To me, these appointments are these, I guess, particular president and vice president are, especially with Corey now at the helm, not super impactful as much as they were maybe prior to having Corey's help.
I think in terms of legislation, we don't know where this bill stands.
Yeah, and that
So
too.
what I'm suggesting is that prior to last year, this committee had not been political. And as of last year, it's very political. So the point is that if we have the president and the vice president from the same side of the appointees, I think that that's problematic. So what we're suggesting is that the vice president should come from the minority of the appointees.
Can you articulate why you think that that would be an issue
I just did.
and
I thought.
problematic?
It's problematic because of voting, and that there's definite a line drawn in the sand. It's 3-2, and so if the minority has is in the vice president situation, at least we have in the executive session of the of the RDC, we have somebody who's can bring up a different side of view.
You can still have a 3-2 vote,
I
any
realize
point,
that,
even
but
if the vice president sits on the other side.
I agree. I agree.
And I
You
guess,
can nominate. I mean, you can, it's your prerogative to nominate it. You can.
Right.
You have that.
It wasn't my
And-
intent to kick off a larger
Okay.
discussion
No,
about the policy.
well-
It's not law yet. It's simply moving through the process. We may at some point have to have a further discussion about it, but I generally, I think that it does help when there's broad consensus and that we are on the same page and working together. I don't sense, just from my second meeting, that that's not the case. And Jacqueline, with you in this role as president, I think that there's further conversation that can be had. But like I
Yeah.
said, I didn't mean to kick anything off just by bringing it up.
well, and I guess to your point about the executive session, we're all invited to the executive session
So
every time.
I mean, on the executive, meaning president, vice president, I think that the thought that letting the minority have the vice president makes sense, and it puts more of a unity in the group. But if that's not what you guys want, that's fine.
Well, and to be fair, I haven't had the experience of vice president with the RDC. So what has the vice president done historically? Because I think that was your position last year. That would drive.
Well,
You
if you
to
want to
feel-
open that conversation, I'm more than happy to speak about it, but I don't know that we want to have that conversation right now.
Well, I mean, in pertinent to your point here, what would you do what would that person do in that vice president role that would be
Depends
important?
on whether the president allows them the information to be passed to them or not.
But we've all been part of those executive.
And again,
Sessions.
that's where we disagree. Yes, we've all been a part of the same sessions. Yes, we're all there in the executive session. But in my opinion, things within the RDC have not been handled in a voting type of way. I don't think all the members have been in the past year have been available to all the information. So that's where I'm at.
But I think that with my point earlier was with Corey as part of this and helping the committee overall, I think that information flow has become better. And it's been easier to facilitate.
And I see this group working together really well. And I'm excited about this commission. And I think that we have a bright future in front of us. And I don't want to be held to past sins that I can't be accounted for. I can't be held accountable to those past sins of whatever existed, but I can only move forward. And I think that this is a great group and dynamic group, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone. So until it becomes part of the legislation, I don't see a need to do that.
I disagree, but I just wanted to put forward my thoughts.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that as long as we're all invited to the sessions, I think I don't know, I don't see it as a problem. And I haven't.
Not all the information is put forward in those sessions. That's all I'll say.
Like I said, historically, I would say that might have been accurate, but again, with Corey helping us, I don't see that to be the case.
Okay,
Or at least I haven't experienced it.
good enough.
But if you feel differently, or if you haven't,
That's what I feel. I think that
do you think that going forward, we're gonna
I
have a
think
problem
going
with
forward, the vice
communication?
president should come from the minority. It doesn't have to be me. And I don't know if David wants to, but I'm kind of putting him in a bad position. There's no question about it. But
Again,
for now, we can just have, Sanjay can be vice president. That's
He cannot
fine.
be. You haven't stopped taking nominations.
it's true.
Correct. That's true.
Well, I would be speaking for David in this particular situation, and that's not fair to him. So we haven't discussed it before this. So I just wanted to put my thoughts forward. So we can move forward with the vote as is.
Now I've lost track of where we.
You just take a vote.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so we're ready to take a vote. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries 4-1. All right, I'm gonna find the agenda, so I apologize.
It's right here on the tab.
Oh, it's on this part. That's why I'm having a hard time finding it.
Need a nomination for secretary as well.
All right, thank you. Yeah, now we need the nomination for secretary.
I'll nominate David.
Second.
Great. Any other nominations? Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nope. All right. Carries 5-1 or 5-0, sorry. The next item is ratifying the actions on the January 23rd meeting, and this is pertains to the fact that we were not officially sworn in prior. So, Brian, you had a way for us to just sort of do this in a one fell swoop.
Yes, you can ratify all decisions other than the officer elections, which you have just modified, if you so choose. You can ratify what you did. There's no need to have individual votes and individual debates unless there's something that you passed in January that you want to change.
Yeah, I want to make one note for the record. So one of the items that's up for ratification would be the RDC budget for this year. And in it, we note as some of our receipts being an allocation from the town council of $180,000. Upon review, that's not accurate. And so I would ask that we, as we're ratifying, just amend that to eliminate that line. It's line 14. And that would reflect on line 16 that total receipts non-TIF would be $500,000 instead of $680,000. And with that change, I think that is all.
You want to make that motion?
Yes, I would move that we amend the budget as it was passed in January to reflect the elimination of line 14, the Zionsville Council allocation. The figure is $180,000.
Second.
Sounds good. All right.
And then I would move the ratification of the resolution 2023-02, the ratifying the actions from the last meeting.
With the caveat of the change.
Correct.
Yes.
Awesome. We have a motion.
And a second, Kent second.
Yeah, I second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Motion carries 5-0. That brings us down to reports and approvals. So claims for approval, I believe, are just two this time. So 8,000 from Ice Miller and 15,000 from Innovative Planning. So that's the total of 23,000.
I'll make a motion to approve claims for January of 2023, or I guess February of 2023.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. So motion carries 5-0. And now that brings us to Corey's director's presentation.
Thank you, Corey Sharp. If you all in your packets, you have a handout that looks like this, and for anyone online, you will we will have this up on the website as well. My presentation today basically is about the Ready Grant and the Zionsville Gateway. Both of these projects or initiatives were put forward prior to you. And so as we were looking at this first quarter of me giving presentations, it's really about learning. And then as we move into quarter 2 and quarter 3, it'll be about initiatives that we want to move forward with and that town leadership wants to move forward with. And then Q4 will be all about doing. So let me share with you a little bit about the Ready Grant and how that feeds into the Zionsville Gateway area. And I've asked Kara Weber to come and help me with this presentation because Kara was the lead architect and planner that facilitated the Zionsville Gateway Master Plan. And while I share, Kara, I'll let you tee up your computer. The Zionsville Gateway area is basically the south side of the Zionsville Village area, Sycamore Street South and First Street, kind of going north, all the way down to the creek. In 2023, the Indiana Economic Commission, IEDC, came out with a grant called Ready, and they had a pot of $500 million where they wanted collectives to come together and put together a proposal collectively to do projects that initiate economic development. Their primary purpose of the Ready Grant was fivefold. The first one is to increase per capita income that meets or exceeds national averages, to increase the share of population of prime working age. In Indiana's population centers, we actually have a blip in our demographics where we have the baby boomers. This is all across the nation. We have a lot of baby boomers and we have a lot of children. And so the prime age working individuals, we really have to fight for those people. And so the Ready Initiative wants to increase that. Also to increase the rate of educational attainment, to increase property values, and to improve health. So again, I mentioned they had a $500 million pot. Zionsville, along with community in Hancock County, and then Fishers and Marion all came together along in Anderson, came together and formed a White River Regional Opportunity Initiative. And they put together a package that was worth $20 million of projects. IEDC then distributed that money to the group as a whole, and Zionsville was granted $1.9 million as a sub-grant to the White River Regional Opportunity Initiatives. Fishers is acting as the grant fiscal agent, so to speak. And so they're the ones managing and distributing funds. The Zionsville grant agreement basically sets out that we need to have our projects complete by December 31st of 26, and that we need to have all of the funds allocated by December 31st of 24. When I say we, that is the town of Zionsville. It is the administration. It's not the RDC, but you'll learn from Kara's presentation about the Zionsville Gateway is that a lot of the work that we're talking about is in direct correlation with the Zionsville grant money. The grant money is funding pre-engineering for road realignment in the Zionsville Gateway area, and Kara will have a graphic that supports that. Also trail connections, which taps into that improved health, and then increasing opportunities for work and quality of place of having expanding that cultural area south of the village area. So with that in mind, I'm going to hand it over to Kara, and she'll talk about the Gateway area. All of the Ready funds will be spent basically along Sycamore Street and First Street, south of Oak Street, down to the creek. So, and I've asked Kara to give a presentation and then leave some time for question and answers. So,
thank you, Corey. Can you pull up the PDF that I shared? I inevitably do not have the right connections. No matter how many I carry with me,
They just make more.
there's just more, exactly. So while this is getting pulled up, again, my name is Kara Weber. I'm an architect and partner at Delve Design. We were requested along with our partners TPMA at the time to create this study. Oh, look at you. Thank you. To study this, and I'm going to take you through both a timeline of what the process was as well as the result, and happy to entertain questions on any component of it, because I think it's important to think through the history of how we got to what recommendations we did get to, which is now moved into being awarded part of the READY grant, which we're excited about. Thank you, Corey. Okay. So there is a website as well. You may be familiar with it, zionsvillegatewayarea.com. This is a presentation, that is also on that website. So it's available to the public, and there has, any edits have been updated on the website as well. But as a reference, we'll kind of go through, the history. So in August 2020 is when we began this project. The world was in a funny place at the time. Thankfully, we are no longer in that place, knock on wood or plastic laminate. So we started, first of all, asking the questions, following a design thinking ethos of understanding what is, listening to the community, and then we wanted to explore what could be, so that we really set the stage for smart development that the community would support, and it also pencils out. So it's smart for developers and is friendly toward growth as well. So in 2020 and October, we had a few listening sessions with the public at large, got some really great input, and really reached out to key stakeholders as well, including Chamber of Commerce, including immediate neighbors. The residential neighborhood that will abut this, it was very important for us to hear their voice and get input as we craft what this wants to be. Stakeholder interviews, again, as just mentioned, October through January. So we spent several months interviewing and confirming what we've heard from those important groups. Then we did a draft study listening session, and then the website was launched in August 2021, which has the entire report, which I believe is about 62 pages on there. So I won't go through that report, but I will hit highlights and then hear questions. So here's an overview of the area. As Corey mentioned, this is kind of the zone roughly that we are studying and had studied in order to understand how can we create, this is an underdeveloped area. It is arguably an area of blight. How can we create this to be this dynamic experience into Zionsville, but it's also smart and supported by the community. So a few of the design tenets that we wanted to approach this with, and this came from the listening sessions, I should note. It was important that this is economically vibrant, that it is whole community serving, not just the immediate neighbors, though they have a really important vantage point on this. It is an entire community serving area. And perhaps the most important or the most sensitive will be the third point, is that it is an authentically Zionsville experience. So we want to make sure that this area is very critical to the character of Zionsville, to who Zionsville wants to be in the next 10, 20, 50, 100 years. This is really an important thing for us to consider. Again, this is a diagram of just a general design thinking ethos. So step one, understand what is, make sure we diverge and ask the right amount of people, the right questions, converge, is this what you want? And then how can we provide it? Again, we want to diverge and explore how might we solve this issue and converge into a recommendation that would be viable. So this then is probably the image that is also in your packet. This is the current development suggestion recommendation. There are trails. It was important that it is connected to the waterway. It improves the health of citizens and communities. There is both residential. There is a lower density residential, which is the immediate adjacent to the existing residential areas. And then the mixed use / higher density residential starts to come around this corner. Parcel A, again, is an opportunity. This is the town-owned parcel. This is an opportunity for mixed use. Parcel F, again, another opportunity, as well as a public plaza. You will note that the first step in the Ready Grant dollars are going toward this study in particular is the re-engineering and redesign of the flow into Zionsville from South Main Street. So as you cross, you'll see that dashed line is the existing flow into town. And then this is the brick street here. There's a light here. And then there's this four-way, possibly three-way, thank you.
4 in the future.
Yeah. This 1-2 punch that we've all grown to love as you come into town. So to simplify this, this is the new light, and this can become a pedestrian walkway. So we are currently, I believe, getting an RFP is out perhaps where we are getting engineering studies to confirm the exact design of how this will work with the traffic flows and all of that. So I will pause there and entertain any questions about the process, any details about this design. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. So the $1.9 million is simply for planning the project?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the $1.9 million is budgeted for pre-engineering services and then also landscape architecture design services. Right now, the RDC has funded a survey to understand where the utilities are buried in this to kind of get things going. Then DPW has an RFP out for engineering services. Then in July-ish, I'm going to be working with the DPW director to come out with a landscape architecture RFP for the plaza.
Great. It seems at least initially that the governor and the legislature are going to appropriate another $500 million for a second round of Ready, and it should have more flexibility because it's state dollars instead of ARPA dollars. Is it anticipated that there will be an additional ask based on this pre-work that might be included for a second round?
Absolutely, yes.
And that ask is still with the same White River Regional Opportunity Initiative. correct?
That's my understanding, is that the same groups are staying together to move forward to the second ask.
Have they started a process of kind of scoping out what
To
might
my
be
knowledge,
included?
they have not. I've heard a lot of discussions, but to my knowledge, they have not drilled down.
So I have a question. I'm a little confused. I'm all for the Gateway project, but I'm not sure, are we, I feel like we're like third or fourth on the list of things that have to happen before this can happen.
Well, the reason why I felt it was important to talk about the Zionsville Gateway Master Plan is because as we're talking to developers who would likely need a public-private partnerships to develop what you see on the plans, lots D, C, B, F, and E.
Let me ask this question then. If we were to appropriate money from the RDC and the plan ends up not happening, then we've just spent money on something that won't happen?
We have not, other than approving a survey of existing services, which is always valuable information. We have not spent any funds. This is a grant dollar that is kind of running concurrently with the town.
Okay. So then the mayor and the town council are on board with this. Is that what we're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is that this plan has been adopted by the town council, and it is part of the planning department's implementation strategy. So anybody that comes to do work in the town in this area has to follow this master plan, which includes the developers that would approach the redevelopment commission. Now, the mayor has submitted a grant application as a part of this collective and received $1.9 million. So they are doing preliminary engineering services to start implementing this approved plan.
Okay. And just for clarification, that plan is for the realignment of First Street and South Main.
Yes.
What's the prospectively, what's the role that the RDC will play in this plan? Are there parcels that would fall under for our consideration, or?
Fantastic question. So Lot A that you see there is the former PNC Bank, is also an existing parking lot today. That is owned by the town. It is an opportunity for redevelopment. There are developers that have purchased parcels in what you see on the plan, lots D, C, D, and E. Those are developers that are currently going through their due diligence to implement this plan. They do include mixed use. They do include low density residential. They do include parking garages, which are very expensive and oftentimes don't meet the development pro forma and creates a gap, a financial gap, which is why those developers would come to the Redevelopment Commission, because then we would have the opportunity to consider a public-private partnership to have any of those gaps filled.
And are any of these areas currently in an economic development area or some other such district?
Yes, there is there's a Zionsville TIF district in this area. It's called, sometimes it's called 106th Street TIF, and sometimes it's called the Zionsville TIF. But basically the TIF area stretches up from 465 and comes all the way up and stretches to the north side of the village on Main Street. And it just kind of wiggles up into here. So any TIF considerations would have to take into consideration that A, it is an existing TIF, B, that TIF is set to expire within this decade, and C, would you want to pull those parcels out and create a new TIF area, site specific, especially if it's going to be like, for instance, the last couple TIF projects that Zionsville has approved, they've been developer backed bonds. So Kara is, she wears a lot of hats in Zionsville. And while she was the principal in charge for this master plan project with Delve, she also is on the board and board chair, right? Board chair of the Community Development Corporation. And, you know, as we can consider our budget that you just approved, there was an allocation of $250,000 made available to the Community Development Corporation. And I know that they have some ideas that maybe we can consider here in the next couple months. So you may see her soon. But other than that, you know, we're always happy to answer questions, but that concludes my report. And thank you, Kara, for joining me. Back to you, Ms. President.
Right, thanks. Then our next item on the agenda is the TIF area report that is already written. And I think as per our last meeting, we decided that we would no longer read through the specifics, but it is all detailed out for everyone in the packet. So any questions or comments about the TIF written report? All right. So moving on to old business. Oh, we don't have old business, do we?
on the back.
We're- Oh,
We have new business on it.
we have new business, but there's nothing under old business
Oh, okay,
specific
sorry.
unless somebody wanted to bring something up.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Then the new business, approval and adoption of the minutes from January. Were there any corrections needed to those minutes?
Zach, was the corrections that I sent earlier today added?
Yeah, I got those corrections and I've made them. I'll update them on the website and for the final draft.
Thank you for that. If not, I would move the minutes from the previous meeting.
A second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The Ice Miller engagement letter is next.
I'll make a motion to approve the Ice Miller engagement letter amendment to letter of engagement of Ice Miller LLP.
One second.
Great, I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Okay, motion carries 5-0. And yeah, we were going to consider additional regular meeting dates. I know that we're set currently, is it the last Monday of the month?
It's the fourth Monday of every month currently,
Monday.
set at 6:30, and this has been, currently it is noticed for the rest of this year.
So if we change it, then we'd have to,
We would have to renotice, yes.
okay. But next month specifically, we definitely need to change it because some members aren't available. So do we want to just work on that on the side and come up with a date, or do you guys have, I know that in the past, we've done Friday mornings occasionally at like 9 or 9:30, but Amanda, you said that the CDC meets at 8:30, so
On the last,
on the last Friday,
the fourth Friday, right?
the fourth.
No, it's like, I believe it's the second or third Tuesday of every month.
CDC,
Or the CDC is Friday. I believe it's the third Friday.
here says third.
The third Friday.
Okay.
Okay, so we could consider the fourth Friday at 9 a.m. But maybe not next month, Corey, if you're out. Okay, so not next month. I'll try again.
You're out the 24th.
I am out the 24th through the 2nd.
Okay.
Okay, so, and then the 17th would overlap with the CDC meeting.
About the 20th.
Say again,
The 20th?
the 20th. Oh, on that Monday. At 9 a.m.
That may conflict with town council. I'd have to double check that.
We can do an evening meeting.
An evening
Move it, yeah, take it from the 27th to the 20th
to the 20th
to a 6:30.
to the 6:30.
If you wanted to do that, that's also plan commission. So
Never mind.
Nope, terrible ideas, all of them. Well, what about, okay, so I think we're just gonna have to get together with schedule bingo and see what we can come up with. Okay. We'll work on it. But it's definitely not when it's scheduled. So the other business is the discontinuation of LoopNet services. More information on that?
Previously, the Redevelopment Commission took action to approve Creekside Properties on basically an online brokerage site called LoopNet. It's an industry standard site. All of the properties are up there for anyone to see. I believe this was put up there in an effort to broaden the opportunities for Creekside's market. What we have seen from this are buyers that don't align with what we want to see for Creekside. For instance, they would not be owner occupied buildings, maybe some distribution or warehouse facilities. In the end, I don't believe that LoopNet is really serving its purpose for what we need it to be. It is an ongoing reoccurring expense. So because it was an action item by the commission in the past, I would just ask that for us to discontinue it, just to have your blessing for administration to discontinue this service.
That makes sense.
Corey, do we have a town site where all of the properties can be listed that kind of describes the intention behind the PUD and what the town development plan is?
We do have a redevelopment commission site. I don't believe it goes into depth on Creekside. The PUD is online, but I can work with IT and get some packages up. Zach has put some great maps together that we can put up so that it is referenced there.
I think this is a good opportunity for us to kind of put together maybe a PDF. It doesn't need to be a website, but maybe a packet, a PDF that includes all of the lots, the distinct details of each lot and kind of the thought behind what kind of development we'd like to see. That way folks can download it if they want, and we can leave it behind with, interested parties.
That's a great idea.
So I don't want to interrupt, but we do have that available. It's just linked to our department's website, not the RDC's. We can switch that and make the RDC a parent or just link them together. We also do have a brochure with all of that relevant information that you just requested, basically. So thankfully, we've ahead of that. We just might want to link it to the RDC's page to make it more connected.
Corey, do we have a month-to-month contract with LoopNet, or is what are the terms, and do we need to provide notice for discontinuation of service?
It was an annual contract that is about to expire, which is why we are talking about, it's about $79 a month.
Perfect.
Do you need a motion?
Do we need a motion to do this, I guess,
I
officially?
think I'm looking, because it was, Brian, I'd look to you. To me, this is an administration of the budget and it doesn't need official action. But because the commission took official action in the past, I just want to make sure that we close the loop, kind of like we did with the microloan program.
Yeah, I would file that under something very similar to the microloan program.
Okay.
I'm not sure why it was done.
I'll move that we discontinue LoopNet services.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
And there's nothing else on our agenda, so meeting's adjourned.